And for anybody who is like hitting play, today we're going to be talking to a filmmaker extraordinaire and an actress that I've known for some time. I want to introduce, right now I'm pointing above me. I don't know how it's going to look whenever this is done recording, but I want to introduce Erica McIntire, wave, hi, and Sarah Greyson.
Hi.
Hi. And we're going to be talking about their short film, The Cut. Now, I am so glad that I saw this film. Before we dive in and I find out a little bit more about you guys, I'm so glad I saw it because the first thing that came to mind was, aside from how visually compelling I think it is, it felt to me like a performance piece.
Good. Yay.
Yeah, it came across in such a dynamic way. I'm just excited to kind of introduce it to people and let them know sort of what inspired it and all that kind of stuff. But first, Erica, why don't you start and tell me just other interests in the creative space that you are involved in, and what drew you to filmmaking? Go for it.
So I started off as an actor, and that's partly how I know Sarah, because we have the same commercial agent. And then I was just really pissed off with acting. And so then I started writing. And then I got really pissed off with writing. And then I started taking pictures and directing and doing graphic design and things like that. So I kind of do too much, basically.
Well, and it does sound like you have a variety of interests, but I've seen some of your photography. What is the website? ericamcintire.com?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll put it in the comments or whatever so people can look it up. It definitely let me know before I saw the film kind of what your eye was like as a filmmaker. And so I encourage people to go and look at her photography. Now, Sarah, I know because, you are an actress, so we're sort of all kind of in the loop in that way, but tell us a little bit about what, actually, if you want to say what your first project was in the industry.
Oh, okay.
But
it wasn't my first project, but it was a project. Because I wanted to act since I was probably, 14 or 15 years old. So I had done theater and a couple of films before ever breaking into anything that was really professionally noticeable. And then I was on a reality show. I was on MTV's Road Rules Campus Crawl. Season 11. And then I did a challenge with them. So I did their original Gauntlet. So I'm in some circles known as the Gauntlet Queen.
She's a warrior.
I went into the Gauntlet a lot. That's how you become a queen. So that's how I kind of got on everyone's radar. And then I collected a few degrees. I moved out to LA. I began acting in commercials and have done, a handful of short films, a couple of features since I've been here, but primarily commercial work pays the bills.
Well, and one of the reasons I wanted to pick and get you to say you did reality TV, I don't think people fully understand how possible it is to have different experiences and have it inform who you are as a creative on a multiple levels. I myself have cast reality TV, but I also have cast scripted commercials and I'm in the Television Academy as a casting director for true crime murder recreations, and people look down their nose at those.
Awesome.
Very cool.
But I think that that's so interesting because as a early performer, you put yourself kind of in hot water, if you will, in an unknown kind of environment, and didn't really know where it was going to go, and then had your college experience while all that was breaking and everything. And I think that that's so interesting. I think it's fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's definitely it was an interesting way to go with it, simply because I think in the beginning I was so paranoid about being typecast or kind of painted into a corner in terms of what I'm capable of, or, you know, being a personality versus being an actor. And I was really careful to go back to school and study. And then when I came out to LA, train and train and train and train and train, just because I never wanted to be just that person from that reality show. And it was a lot of work to get away from it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was happening at a time in which social media was not as prevalent in our lives, and people weren't turning it into multi-billion-dollar franchises.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know that it could be a helpful thing rather than a hindrance, because it wasn't that way. It's changed.
That's what I think is so fascinating and so important for talent. And this goes with you both. You put your toe in the water of doing something, and you said, what else is there? And I think that there's a certain amount of bravery that's really important when you're having a creative endeavor and you're going into something in the creative arts, to say, you know what, I know that something could blow back at me on this, but I feel strongly that right now this is what I need to be doing. I hear a lot of fear and trepidation from people. And from both of you ladies, I see a lot of like, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to step into this and I'm going to see where I can go. And I'm just going to keep kind of grinding.
Yeah, I think you have to keep evolving, because it's not enough to be waiting around to like have people cast you. Like, you have to keep creating.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like a dead end, kind of, for me anyway.
Yeah.
You're friends with people like this, because as an interpretive artist, you kind of want people to create things that you can interpret, and getting the opportunity to do that is, few and far between. It's a really competitive world, and unless your daddy's a big time famous director or something, it's very hard to break in and move forward of your own volition.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that there is something to be said for collaborating with people that are creatively inspired, and you can work well with. Erica, what drew you to working with Sarah on The Cut? Was that something where you were like, I'm seeing her, I'm envisioning her in this role? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that she could pull it off and that she would be patient, because, I mean, honestly, we didn't have, a lot of resources, and, she was so helpful, like, because I did everything with wardrobe and the locations and the set design, and, just like choosing her wardrobe, like even that was something that was so helpful to just get her input. And with the locations, there was one location where, like, the fancy house in it, we didn't have that. We had like all the other ones sorted out, and I didn't have that one. And she was so great of just like finding places like that we could maybe rent to shoot in. And we ended up using like my boss's place, which worked out great. But I just knew that I could count on her to do like above and beyond, and that she would kind of show up for whatever. And thankfully that's what happened. So it was pretty awesome.
And let's just tell people, like, how many minutes is the short? Tell us a little bit about the tone and kind of introduce people to what it is.
So it's 11 minutes and I think like 9 seconds or something. I co-wrote it with my friend Kathleen, who I've co-written a bunch of stuff with, and she's an awesome collaborator. I had just shot and produced another short for a friend, and I had written something that like made it to the second round at the Sundance Episodic Lab. And I kind of just wanted to do something in that sort of world, and this to me is kind of like a movie, sort of surreal, almost like a bad dream. So like a little bit thriller, I think of it like Run Lola Run meets Mulholland Drive or something. Like that's how I
that's how it was pitched to me.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
I was like, so I'm going to be running, you say?
Yeah. What's all this with running? I will tell you, it's very moody in tone, in the best possible way, where you just know something's off. You know something's ill. You know something's, brewing.
Good.
It's queasy.
That
It's a
is.
queasy film.
Yes. Question also, no, I don't want to give anything away because I want people, we'll talk about the film festival it's in a minute, but there's a bicycle moment. Were those guys in the cast?
They seriously just walked by, and they were actually, because Sarah was so distraught, they were like, "Are you okay?" Like, it was like
They asked if I was okay, and I like was staying in character because they couldn't see that I was being filmed from across the street.
Right.
I stayed in character and was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, kind of irritated with them.
I'm telling you, I was like, okay, that was either a gift from the film gods,
yes,
and these dudes were just kind of chilling on the street, or those two guys are so like calm and grounded,
right,
all natural,
I mean, LA as a backdrop, everyone seemed pretty like they were very chill about this distressed woman in the street.
yeah, and
yelling
they
at
kind of
someone
just
on the phone.
came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
It
they
was
walked
like,
their bikes past. They didn't stop and stay. We weren't like, we're filming, cut. Like, we just kept it rolling. So
that's something I was going to point out though. Like, if that was the case, Erica, that is some strong, like, keep it rolling, like, I don't know, like it takes a lot of balls to keep a camera going when something like that happens. And on a reality set, the camera never stops.
Right.
On a film set, if a bird flies into the frame, they might, freak out and call cut and lose something that might be magical. So I think filmmaker, talk about that.
it was just very serendipitous, and
all of it.
I just felt like it, because she's so isolated for so much of the movie, it kind of made it feel like this was like, oh, this is a real world. You know what I mean? There are other like layers to it, and it's not just her, freaking out alone the whole time. Or whatever.
No, but like just in something that's really visually and disturbing, Alice in Wonderland, in like the animated space, when you're going down, and you just kind of pass these characters and they're just floating in and out, but you're alone.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe that I got from the whole thing.
Cool.
Yeah. And I just thought that the inspiration and the visuals that you have on your website told me like that is what I should expect from your filmmaking. Does that follow and track with the other projects you've done, like the vibe of this piece? Or is this something that you were like, you know what, I'm feeling this right now and I'm going to shoot it?
I think with some of the projects I've written that I haven't produced, definitely the tone is there, because I do write a lot of crime or like fantasy, or even a little bit of like magical realism, that kind of stuff. Some sci-fi as well. So I do tend to be a genre person. And even the short that I produced, that I was talking about, my friend's short, like that was a docu horror comedy, which was it was totally wild.
So weird.
But definitely more straightforward. This is kind of like a nonlinear story, which is challenging to pull off, especially on no budget. But
with no time. I mean,
yeah,
the time constraints on this, I think, were the real.
You guys shoot for 3 days? Was that what it was? Literally,
we had 3.5 basically. But the location, the apartment complex with the courtyard. So my ex-boyfriend used to live there, and so I knew everything. I knew that place in and out. He wasn't living there at the time. I had to approach the board and be like, hey, can I shoot here? And they let me shoot there for free. And that location was the whole apartment, like the stairs, the elevator, and across the street with the cats. Like I knew that the cats were going to be there because the cats are like an epidemic in that parking lot. Like everyone is like trying to get the cats away.
They were pretty
So
mad
I
at us.
wrote them into the script specifically. I brought all of this cat food to like lure them in. And Nick, the actor who he's been in like the webisode I've done, he's done every reading I've done. He's like
He's amazing.
friggin' gem. Like I can ask him to do anything and he just shows up and there's magic. So I really, like with that location, like I want to say, I think I asked them for 5 hours because we're shooting in the middle of the courtyard.
People live there.
And this was not like screaming, and it is disruptive.
It was very disruptive. We felt really, we were definitely under the wire.
Yeah.
Post any kind of a thing the day before saying we're going to be filming a little thing? Like, did you put any kind of a notice up for the tenants or no?
No, but Jeremy, the president, the board president, he had to get it approved by the rest of the board. And I don't really know if he actually said anything to the tenants, but they were super cool. Like everyone, because we were in the hallways and I mean, we weren't super loud, but we were
very present in a contained space. And they were really chill about the noise or, the blocking of certain hallways and entryways when we needed that. They were surprisingly cool.
And even the security guard, because
the security guard is so sweet.
We shooting in that parking lot, I mean, we probably went over like an hour, and I had to use like the remote control clicker, and it was like to get the gate to keep coming open, and it was seriously, driving him mad. But they were very, very accommodating, and I'm so grateful because that space to me is like so special and has like such a feeling to it,
Say it's what so many people don't know about Los Angeles is how you can just be transported anywhere. And those little gyms like that, I got sort of like a European vibe. I got a New Orleans vibe. I got, there was just so much richness in that one visual.
Yeah.
And I was like, golly, just like looking, I think you have a photo I might edit into this so people can see looking down into that courtyard. It's gorgeous. It's
I didn't know that it existed as it did until we got there, and I was just blown away. I was like, I can't believe we get to shoot here. This is so cool. And then we had a cat that like just decided it wanted to be the star of the show.
That cat was not, the cat in the courtyard wasn't written in. And when Sarah enters, this cat just, parallel just came in on the other side.
It was very weird. We had a lot of animal omens throughout the entire shoot. It was very bizarre and cool.
Well, and it kind of leads me into the connection that this felt very connected. And I do think that, I want to just find out from you, Sarah, if working with Erica, because emotionally you were very full, emotionally you were very present. And some of those moments, like with the cats walking through or the guys coming through and staying in the moment, was working with Erica something that kind of lent itself to help you do that work? Or have you felt just like, screw it, I'm going to do me regardless of who the director is that you've been working with? Like, what was it like working with Erica?
Well, I think because we're friends and we understand each other, it was kind of seamless in that way. I feel like, we could just kind of sense a little bit of the time, like when there was a good take or we need to do it again, or, if I needed to go deeper with something. I think that we were always kind of on the same page. And because we were under such time constraints, there just wasn't a lot of time.
I didn't have the luxury of doing, 50 takes or whatever.
No, like it was very fast. Like that, you mentioned the bicycle scene. We did 2 takes with that.
And we lost that's one of the things that was really hard. It was one of the actors who's the 911 like dispatcher ended up leaving, and
2 takes, that's all we had with them.
What I should have done, and this is something that I am learning about now, I should have basically just shot her anyway and just used the recording. You know what I mean? Like, and but in the moment, it was so jarring to have him go, and it was just kind of like, oh fuck, we just need to get this,
Yeah.
we need to get it. Like
We're filming on like the street in the middle of the night.
yeah, so that was our last, because that was near that the apartment complex as well. But we stole that location. Like I had planned it out. Like I loved the yellow; it matched her, what she was wearing and the shadows and everything. But in the kind of heat of the moment, it was kind of like, oh, we just have to get this,
That's an important thing to note, though. Like it's not that you were doing a guerrilla production where you're just stealing everything. Obviously, there was a lot of planning and everything that went in. I think you said you worked on this individually for like a year, Erica, right? Going into.
Well, with this, it was more like getting the locations. I mean, I probably not quite a year. It did take a while to get everyone on board and like figure out the schedule and to try and like make everything happen within a reasonable time frame. But I probably worked on it, I don't know, for about 6 months or something, just refining it. And then, I did produce it through SAG and getting all of the contracts and the workman's comp and, the equipment and all that stuff it just takes, time.
Well, and most of the budget, like that's a thing that like we don't talk about enough, I don't think, is like how expensive it is to produce a SAG film.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go through the proper channels.
I was going to say, it's, I don't want you to have to say what your budget was, but I'll say it's a low budget. I will say you did this on low.
Shoestring.
How low can you go? Kind of,
Yeah, everyone worked for free, except for, the editor, the
sound,
the composer, the colorist, and like my first AC, and then the sound recordist. I mean, it was just basically like, like kind of post was where all the money went, you know, and the SAG stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I feel like I know that, and I've seen the film. I could say you spent a lot more just having seen it. And so I think it's really amazing. You do have to kind of beg, borrow, and steal when you're getting a project together, because I mean, who's got money to throw away on, you know what I mean? Like we not just bags McGee when we're working in this industry. But also like getting into the festival, because that's some of the money goes into festival entries and things like that. Let's talk about the impact of COVID, because you guys were finalizing this and COVID's hitting, and that kind of threw a monkey wrench into submissions and stuff. Talk about it.
Well, their Nightmares, which is where it's premiering, they're virtual, obviously, this year. But a lot of festivals like IFF and Oaxaca, like they've pushed it until 2021, so it's just been challenging because I feel like everyone's doing something a little different. But Nightmares is great. The film, the short that I was talking about that I had shot last year, Possessions, played there last year as well. So our category is reoccurring nightmares, and it's for filmmakers that are they're coming back, so I'm really, really grateful that they're, that they liked the movie and they got it,
It's a challenge with a non-linear script.
And what's the full name of the festival? Because it's coming up in like a week, isn't it? Virtual?
It's the 21st through the 25th, and it's Nightmares Film Festival.
Nightmares Film Festival. Mm-hmm. I'll put that in the comments too once I post this, so people can like sign up to watch it.
Yeah, I'll give you the link or whatever so people can.
It's October. It's not like we're going to be going to Halloween parties and stuff.
I know, right? Watch some scary short films.
Yeah.
Get freaked out and like spooked out watching some good content. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the film, and I definitely feel like I'm talking to two women creatives, female creatives. You talked about your co-writer is also a woman. I just want to take a moment to say, you go girls. No, I want to find out, like, is part of that thing you were mentioning early on in this conversation about just feeling kind of disappointed in what was out there, um, does it have to do with having better representation of female voices and better roles for women? That I don't know if you saw the thing that came out the other day, BBC, the leading lady video. Did you see that?
Oh, it's been out for a little while. Yeah, I've seen
I
that.
I just saw it, but I was like, yeah, like, can you just say that again without your clothes on? Could you,
Exactly. Be
Yeah.
sexier.
yeah, be sexier, but also not wanting sex and this, that, and the other. In terms of working jobs, in terms of acting in jobs, and all of that, how has that kind of shift impacted what you two have been working on? Because I definitely feel like there's been a shift. I mean, the industry's still male dominated, but there's been a shift to female voices, female directors, and also talent saying, hey, like Type A Productions, I'm going to produce my own stuff and star in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they are looking for more like female lead content,
Yeah.
like stories about women that are written by women,
Yeah.
not
Strengthening
men,
the voice of women.
Yeah.
Not replacing the voice of women with a male gaze. I think that that's really important. I don't know. I think that like at this state in the game, we're still not nearly where we need to be in terms of representation as a gender, but it is improving. I think that we're seeing more, body diversity and more age diversity and more racial diversity. But I mean, there's just so much more room for growth and progress in that field.
I do think that it's an important part of the conversation. And honestly, being a member of the Television Academy kind of opened my eyes, because I know Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, they'll do diversity seminars, and they'll do inclusion seminars and things like that from time to time. But it's such a blip, I feel like. And when I joined the Television Academy, I kept sort of being welcomed into, there was a panel discussion on how menstruation shows up in TV. Like, this was one of my first panel discussions I went to in person, because I was like, what are we talking about? Like,
let's talk about periods some more.
Let's talk about menstruation. But it was so interesting that this was, and there's disability seminars, there's these things that come up, they're talking about the content and saying, where are these roles? Peanut Butter Falcon, I think, just came out a year ago, right? Isn't that the name of it, with Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and there was, I think, a Down syndrome role in that film. But I do feel like representation and the more people step up to write something and direct something and get their talent together, the more diversity does bleed into the mainstream, and you start to kind of see more representation.
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it enriches everything. There's no reason not to. And I hope that, people see like a small film like The Cut and think there's a little film that could, those women got together and they built something, that's really beautiful from the ground up with good creative ideas. And
and also just a story that's not typical,
it's like, not like a rom-com for sure.
No, it's not.
I feel like it's a very LA story.
Yeah.
Because, in LA, there's like all of these like, people that are like really close, like, or they seem like they're like, attainable or something like that, but they're really like far away. And there's so much difference between class.
Yeah.
And I was trying to kind of depict that a little bit, in her relationship with the guy.
It definitely comes across. And also the passing, you're in a space with everybody, but you're alone. And you feel overwhelmed because people are right on top of you, and yet no one looks you in the eye. all of those things. That's why I thought that moment with the guys on the bicycle, you were still very isolated in that moment. And it was like one of those LA moments, literally. Literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's comforting to know that, young boys see a woman in distress and do ask if she's okay.
They're all like, you all right? Yeah, I like
that. It's atypical. I mean, I was very adamant that we leave that take in because I thought it was something really magical. But it is a film a lot about classism and the divide that exists, and that we all feel isolated in one way or another. It's just like, your lens that you're viewing your isolation through can just be so different from another person's lens.
It's true. And also sometimes, I mean, this is also a really intimate conversation we're having as creatives, but even going to a festival or something, you don't necessarily have the money as a creative to go and pay the money to go and sit in on panel discussions and stuff like that and hear from creatives. And even if you do, they're set apart from you up on a stage and there's no time to go and ask them the questions. And I hope that, with conversations like this, it can kind of bring in the perspective that you can get together with your friends and do something really amazing. There is a creative community that's alive and well in Los Angeles, and I know in New York as well. If we just get together and have the conversations and go, how did you make that work? How did you get that done? Start inspiring each other to get out there and use our own voices to make something that's awesome. So I hope that people are going to go to your website, Erica, and look at your visual work because your photography is gorgeous. I would love to find out too, Erica, what are you currently working on? Do you have anything else? I mean, are we just kind of going into getting this in the festival circuit, or what's your deal? What's next?
So I'm writing a pilot right now, a spec. It's an hour long. It's based on a true crime. And I have been working on that for a while. Or just, it's been something that I've known about for a while, and I've been doing research. And really, within the last, I'd say 6 months, I was able to kind of crack it and figure out how to approach the story. Because it took me a long time to sort of be brave enough to write it, So now I've kind of found an in. And, I'm just really hoping to finish that by November. That's my goal, the first draft. Yeah.
And Sarah, what are you working on besides not getting COVID?
Well, not anything at the moment comes to mind. It's, auditions have been few and far between during a pandemic situation, which is to be expected.
Yeah.
So, you do what you can to flesh out your downtime and make it interesting. I'm teaching myself sign language. I'm taking some classes. Just trying to, stay, I don't know,
motivated
interesting by being interested in other things. So
motivated and inspired and raring to go once things kind of calm down. And
I am ready. I am ready. And actually, the more we're talking about this, the more I'm thinking oh my God, we should make something else together.
Well, I do feel we had a really special window because we would not be able to really get away with what we got away with, now.
Yeah, the stars aligned for sure.
I don't even know if what the SAG contract or if I would even be able to do it through, you know what I mean? I don't know what that looks like for people who are making independent short films, who don't have a crazy budget.
I had planned to shoot this year and then we're like, oh no, sorry, you need to be in a bubble. And I did, I mean, and there's thinking back over your film, I think there's ways to do it, but even just being in an enclosed space,
enough
for somebody to say, nope, this is unsafe. Sorry, no, you can't be indoors with one another. Like,
Oh, I know. I mean, filming in an elevator together, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like, I would be so scared to do that now.
Yeah, we would all have to be in the same pod. You know,
Yeah,
be like,
and we're
okay,
quarantined
like,
together
yes.
for weeks and
Yeah.
temperature checked and all that nonsense. I mean, it would just be too much. I think
Yeah.
that it was wonderful and magical that we did it when we did. LA moments like that
Yeah.
bicycle situation probably wouldn't have happened if we were shooting it
Right?
now.
Yeah.
be on the street. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been out. There wouldn't have been people. They would
There
have
wouldn't have
crossed
been
the
people.
street and
They
been
would have
with
had a
I know,
mask
they
on.
would have had
Yeah.
a mask, they wouldn't have interacted. I mean, the whole thing, it's really special,
Yeah.
like the timing of it, for
it came
sure.
together. And I know, like, I'm sure your agents are sending you those emails saying, hey, you know, things are picking up and be on the lookout. And you're like, okay, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's such an awkward time right now, but
It is.
I do think it's magical that you've got this going, that it's in a festival. I'm sure it's going to be in more festivals. I know that, you know, there are a couple, like, I think Austin has one that they've gone virtual, they've gone online. I was just trying to look back in my notes because I'd posted things in the group, and that was one that came up. And so there are some that are transitioning and pivoting. So hopefully you get more of those and some interest from one, so you can get it out there and get it seen.
Yeah, I'm just happy it's going to be at Nightmares, and you know, it's an awesome festival, and the actors will be able to actually show their work somewhere, because it's like so important.
It is, and it's been kind of like, you know, a thing that we sort of did in secret. It was done at night for the most part, and you know, with such a small group of people, and we were kind of sitting on it while, you know,
everything fell apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you know, it's very hard to do stuff for no money. It takes more time. If you want it to look like it costs something, you really have to, you know, pay it in time on the back end.
Yeah.
So,
and to push through with all the stress of everything else that was breaking, I think it's really amazing. So well done. And thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about the film. The film is The Cut. We have Erica McIntire. Thank you for being here today. Sarah Greyson, thank you for being here today. And thank you for talking with Coat Check Creative and kind of sharing your genius with me. So yay.
Thanks for having us.
For having us, Paisley. Yay.